Welcome back, everyone. I see there are still a few more people in the breakout room, so I'm just going to send them a message quickly and then call them back here. And then we'll get started with the next presentation. And we are very happy to have Jan Haakonsen joining us today, who'll be presenting next.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm speaking to you from just outside Oslo in Norway. My name is Jan Hookensen, and I work for the Research Council of Norway, where I'm, among other things, the so-called international contact point for Africa. And that means primarily South Africa, because it's with South Africa that we have our major cooperation, as we've had for the last 20 years in time. So that means, and I've been involved in these bilateral programs with South Africa since the beginning. So that means I'm an old hand when it comes to South Africa as well, and I have been to this beautiful country of yours, as I see most of your participants are South Africans, I think at least 50 times, and I miss it because the last couple of years it has not been possible to travel. Anyway, I've been asked to tell you a little bit about Horizon Europe. I'm not an expert on Horizon Europe, but everybody in Europe, at least, that are involved with the research and innovation are very much aware of this program. And I'm going to try to tell you a little bit about the opportunities that the cooperation between South Africa and Norway can open up in this great key funding program, as we call it, for research and innovation. In fact, it's the largest research and innovation program in the world when it comes to volume. It has a budget of all of 95.5 billion euro, which, as you can see, is quite a huge sum. Now, although neither Norway nor South Africa are EU members, both countries have been very active in their participation in the previous framework programs, the ones preceding Horizon Europe. Norway has been formally a so-called associated country, as it is in Horizon Europe, that started this year, goes from 2021 to 2027, while South Africa has had various bilateral agreements with EU, including a series of SSTAP agreements, as they're called. The last one of these programs, SSTAP 2020, included 4 partners from South Africa and 6 from Europe, out of which 1 was my own organization, the Research Council of Norway. Now, as the screen shows, both the EU and associated countries can participate. Funding is actually open for participants from all over the world, not just EU and associated countries. There's actually a special focus on Africa through the Africa initiative of the first work program. And I believe we should build on this special relationship that South Africa has enjoyed with the EU, as well as on the special relationship that has existed between Norway and South Africa that dates back for a long time, not only the last 20 years when we started our bilateral research cooperation, but actually already in the apartheid time, Norway was very active in supporting higher education for South Africans in exile or families, children, and so on of South Africans who were imprisoned under the apartheid regime. So we have a long tradition there. And after freedom was achieved, of course, Norway started its more formal cooperation with was then a free South Africa. Now, what is Horizon Europe, besides being a huge cash box for research and innovation? It has a vision, and the vision is briefly summarized: a sustainable, fair, and prosperous future for people and the planet based on European values. Now, this Commission's vision, these values, are actually, they align very well with the Research Council of Norway's values as outlined in the strategy for sustainability, as well as the Norwegian government's long-term plan for research and higher education. And I believe very much with South African visions as well. One of the major visions is to tackle climate change, and a lot of the project in Horizon Europe goes to that, and also to help achieve the sustainable development goals, and not the least, boosting the union's competitiveness and growth, as well as those of us that are associated to the union. The goals for Horizon Union include to strengthen the EU's scientific and technological basis and the European research area, which is known as ERA. It has a goal of boosting Europe's innovation capacity, competitiveness, and jobs, and to deliver on citizens' priorities and sustain our socioeconomic models and values. The way this framework program is organized, it has three so-called pillars. And the three pillars you can see here, they're called excellent science, global challenges, and European industrial competitiveness, and innovation Europe. The largest one, as you see, is the Pillar 2, global challenges, and which is divided into 6 so-called clusters of thematic areas. And it's also the pillar that will be of most interest to those participating in this type of research that and higher education that you are involved in. So I will concentrate on this particular pillar. As you see, it's divided into these 6 clusters, out of which cluster 6 is probably the most relevant in this context. It includes food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and not the least, environment. And under this cluster, there are a number of potential areas of intervention that are listed underneath. It does not mean that it's the only cluster that is related to the sort of things that you're involved in. Cluster 5, climate, energy, and mobility, is of course very much of relevance as well to the whole argument of plastic waste and so on. And as you see in cluster 6, there's one specific intervention area called seas, ocean, and inland waters. One innovation in Horizon Europe compared to previous programs is what are called missions, or more specifically, thematic missions. And a mission is, as described here, a portfolio of actions across disciplines intended to achieve bold inspiration and measurable goal within a set time frame, with impact for society and policy making. And it's basically a tool to try to address some of the major cross-cutting challenges, cross-cutting across disciplines that Europe is facing. But of course, it's not only European challenges. When we talk about climate change or environmental pollution, of course, these are very much global challenges. And often these thematic missions will be cooperating with each other, they will be combined. So if you have identified a major challenge, one of them being, in fact, environment, it could have some thematic missions underneath it that result in actions, perhaps on two major missions and into combined and challenges to hopefully solve some or to hopefully provide some solutions to these challenges. And here you have the 5 missions that have been identified, and there you see healthy ocean, seas, coastal and inland waters is one of the 3, as well as climate neutral and smart cities. And I mean, there are a lot of things related. Soil health and food is related, can be related, so you can have several specific missions under this 5 broad area. Another very important part of Horizon Europe, and I'm only describing a fraction of the very complicated structure of the Horizon Europe, but I thought I should bring out those that are probably most interesting to you. Missions, it's one innovation, and international cooperation. This is not new, of course, but it's probably more emphasized than ever that international cooperation should take place not only within Europe, but outside Europe as well. And this is of course, in order to tackle global societal challenges that need to be tackled together by using the world's best talents, expertise, and the resources, whether they are in Europe, North America, Africa, Asia, wherever. And it believed that it will also enhance and create more demand for innovative solutions. So there are lots of opportunities in this international cooperation focus, and there's also some types of or some areas of international corporations have already been targeted. One of them being, of course, Horizon Europe's Africa focus. This focus was started actually almost as soon as the current EU Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen took office. She took office 1st of December 2019, and already 1 week later she did her first overseas trip. And where was that to? Well, it was to Addis Ababa to visit the AU headquarters, and that was only 1 week, as I said, after taking office. And there, in her discussions with the AU, there was another focus on green and digital transformations. Her visit was followed up by the visit of 19 EU commissioners, and an EU commissioner, for those not familiar with the EU, is basically a sort of minister in the European Union. So 19 EU commissioners traveled also to Addis Ababa a couple of months later in February 2020. And this resulted on a joint comprehensive strategy with Africa that was launched 9th March 2020, just as the pandemic, as you know, was about to explode in Europe, especially. That did not prevent the organization of the first ever Research and Innovation Ministerial meeting, which took place in July 2020, of course, digitally, but this laid the ground for what is known as the Africa Initiative in the first program of Horizon Europe, which was launched in June this year officially. The way the EU framework programs like your Horizon Europe are organized is that they have specific work programs that go for over a 2-year period. So this first program goes from 2021 to 2022 and has this Africa Initiative, as it's known. In addition, now and right now, the EU and the African Union are working on an innovation agenda for the European and African relations, which should be ready later this year. So there's a lot to focus on Africa in the EU at the moment. Now, this Africa Initiative includes targeted actions with the key non-EU partners, including this ambitious Africa Initiative. This is a way for the EU to seek to enhance cooperation with Africa and to promote actions to seek to find locally adapted solutions to challenges that are global in nature, which often hit Africa hardest. Some of the consequences of climate change, as it's well known. Unfortunately, parts of Africa are among the ones, well, areas that are hardest hit by either for as droughts or floods, etc. So this Africa Initiative in Horizon Europe actually includes around 40 topics that, for a budget with a total budget of 350 million euros, quite a significant sum for 40 actions over a 2-year period. And they have a result that it will result in a number of calls for proposals that will be, some are published, some will be continuously published on their on the EU's Horizon Europe's homepage. I will come back more specifically how you can find them, get access to them. There are several topics that fall under this African Initiative. They basically grouped into 4 major areas: public health, green transition, innovation and technology, capacity, and the 4th one, capacities for science. I will not go into very detail of this into this 4 areas. Just here are some of the examples what the type of targeted actions within the various topics. For instance, on the public health, there will be research on poverty-related diseases, as well as a focus on the ETCDP 3. And ETCDP is the EU-Africa Global Health Partnership that some of you may have heard. On the green transition, this is probably more of interest to the audience here. There are a number of subtopics, including sustainable agriculture, mobility, climate change. It doesn't mention plastic waste specifically, but there might be topics in the calls coming out that you will find address this area as well. The two final ones, final areas under the Africa initiatives are innovation and technology, and capacities for science. And here are just some of the examples that fall under this. I will not go into very much detail. Now, why should this Africa initiative and Horizon Europe as a whole be particularly interesting for Norwegian and South African researchers? Now, I think that's because we had very good experiences from previous collaboration. Statistics show that South African and Norwegian researchers have been more successful in obtaining funds when partnering with each other than going for applications alone. At least that has been the experience before. The success rate in terms of awarded contracts involving both Norwegian and South African partners is in fact very high, considering the size of the research and innovation system of the two countries, which are not huge. I mean, we're compared to other countries in Europe that with 60, 80 million inhabitants and huge research systems. Other countries in the world, China, India, that have also been participating in applying for funding in various framework programs. And I think these good relationships with these good partnerships between Norwegian and South African researchers are founded on a number of things. One, on this bilateral experiences. We've had 4 bilateral research programs over the last 20 years, involving so far 96 different joint projects, equal partnership projects, financed by both countries. The latest one is a program called Sun Ocean, which is currently going on. Under the framework program 7, which preceded the previous on Horizon 2020, there was a lot of cooperation between Norway and South Africa through EU programs such as CastNet, which went on over 2 periods from 2008 to 2016. There was cooperation through something called Air Africa, which was the first targeted European African, so-called co-fund project. The co-funding is one of the instruments under the EU system, which involves usually at least 4 partners from 4 different countries. In the case of Air Africa, the requirements was to have 2 partners from at least 2 different countries in each continent. And the mechanism works in such a way that if a project is accepted, there's a standard competition application, as a call for proposal, etc., and scientific reviews and all that. But once a project has been accepted, the funding is done by the funding authorities in the countries that are part of the consortium that has achieved funding under one of these schemes. So if you had, let's say, a Norwegian applicant together with a Belgian applicant and a South African and a Kenyan, the 4 countries would provide funding for their own researchers, but it would be all one project. In Horizon 2020, there's a similar co-funded project that's going on. It's called Leap Agri, and in this case, the funding from the different countries is topped up by the EU itself by 30%. Now, so under Framework Program 7, which ended in 2012, 13, sorry, the success rate was 31% for projects with Norwegian and South African partners, which is quite significant. In the Horizon 2020, this cooperation, this collaboration of various network and initiatives under Horizon 2020, which was the previous framework program preceding Horizon Europe. We have had partnerships in this Stop 2020, as I mentioned. We are together in this Lead Agri that I also mentioned. And this has resulted into 44 contracts where South Africans and Norwegian partners have been participating. That means they have been partners in the same project. And we benefited from receiving 48 million euros for the Norwegian partners and 18.4 million for South African partners so far. Horizon Europe is still ongoing, even if Horizon 2020 is still ongoing, even if Horizon Europe has started. In fact, there have been 64 participations in this 44 contracts involving South African and Norwegian partners. Now, South African-Norwegian joint efforts start from a position of strength, as I mentioned several times already, because of these long and close relationships that we've had. There are, in addition to this bilateral and cooperation in previous EU framework programs, both countries are members of a very important network like Eureka and COST. I won't get into specific what these are because there's really no time for that. But you can look up. In both instances, these are basically European networks with a few outside Europe partners as associated countries. In Eureka, in fact, South Africa is one of three non-European countries. The two other ones are Canada and South Korea, as well as Israel. But in this context, Israel is considered as part of Europe. And the same with COST. COST was joined by South Africa, I think it's the first non-European country, a couple of years, 3 years ago, so I believe. Another strength that both countries have is that we have a good network of national contact points that can help guide potential applicants in the application progress, and I'll come back to that in a minute. And of course, the potential for increased number of applications where South African and Norwegian researchers join forces are not necessarily limited to calls under the Africa initiative. You can look at all calls that are coming out. So how to find these goals, how to find your opportunities? Well, the first place to go to is the EU's portal called Funding and Tenders. It can be a little bit complicated to find it exactly where it is and how to get it. At the end of this presentation, I have given a few links where you can find it. The most important being Funding and Tenders portal, and there you can click on how to participate /reference documents. Then you can scroll left and find Horizon Europe, because this is not just a Horizon Europe portal, this is for the whole EU, for instance. If the tenders has been launched for a particular mission or need by the EU, this is also found out here. Then you can click 2021 and then on Horizon Europe main programs. I didn't touch the chance to try to show you on screen how you click, so this is the formula, then you can try it out after you get the copy of this presentation. And then you come to all the thematic sub-programs, and there you can type in a keyword, for instance, Africa, or by theme, plastic waste, or something like that. So it's a very, very useful page to look into. And if you get to the point where you actually submit an application together with your partners in Norway, in South Africa, in other countries, these are the three major areas that the evaluators, the assessors of the proposals that come in will look for. And the assessments are made by scientific panels who spend a lot of time and are specialists in the area where the application has been made, and they have to evaluate all proposals according to three major areas, each counting for a maximum score of 5. One is excellence, of course. It's the application should outline the best ideas based on today's state of the art in that particular area. It should be innovative. It should preferably not be done previously. And of course, it should answer to all criteria in the text of the call of proposals. And implementation is the second major area of evaluation or assessment, where evaluators look at whether the project includes the best project partners possible to conduct this, the specific tasks that are outlined in the project plan. They have to have documented qualifications, expertise of all of the partners involved, and any relevant societal stakeholders. That could be public entities, NGOs. It could also be industry. And finally, it's important that any proposed project should show a sort of impact on society, and that the solutions proposed that should come out of this project should actually be solutions that can work in real life. I'm coming to the conclusion now, but this is very important. As I mentioned, both South Africa and Norway have a network of national contact points. These are really your friendly experts that can help you on the way in your proposal. The network of national contact points is the main structure to provide guidance, practical information, and assistance on all aspects of participation on Horizon Europe. And there again, by going into the tenders and funding portal in Horizon Europe, you can find various ways to search for this national contact points. On the right here, if you search, you can search the SFSTAP page to find South African national contact points in various areas. Norwegian researchers wanting to get assistance from them can go into the RCN, the Research Council of Norway's homepage, where you have, for instance, in the area of food, bioeconomy, natural resources, etc., you have no less than 6 of my colleagues who are experts in these areas who are happy to help you on the way. And finally, here is the list of useful links that I said I would provide. So with that, I'm approaching the 40 minutes that have been allotted to me. So maybe I should have left a little bit of time for questions. I don't know what the procedure is from now on, but that's what I have to say, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Jan. It was really great to hear about Horizon Europe and all that they do. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to either raise your hand or type your questions in the chat box. Yeah, but I just want to say thanks so much, Jan, for outlining all the various clusters and giving us a good overview of the various activities and things that they're looking for. I saw that did note that there was a focus on oceans, and I'm sure plastics will overlap with quite a few of the other clusters that you spoke about. Yeah, and I think the partnerships that you mentioned between South Africa and Norway will hopefully be indicative of the constructive collaboration that the SANO program will also benefit from. Does anyone have any questions? Please feel free to type them through or raise your hand. Carl, I'm not sure if you want to add anything, but I'm sure there'll be a few people who will look into the funding opportunities that you've outlined as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Thank you so much. And I'm also I'm not an expert in finding my way through the maze in Brussels, but I certainly know of Jan and our friends at the Norwegian Research Council. So I'm more than happy to sort of help point you in the right direction. And hopefully, as Tara just mentioned, there might be opportunities emerging from this program, but people getting to know, building new relationships between the two countries, hopefully as a basis to pursue some of these opportunities. Rounding off to 100 billion euros, that's like 200, how much is that? 2 billion, 100 billion, that's right. 2,000 billion rands, roughly, give or take, right? It's substantial. So thank you, Jan.
Okay, thank you. I have to leave you, unfortunately. I'm going out of town for a seminar, so I have to pick up a colleague in a few minutes. So I wish you luck with the rest of the kickoff. And my final advice, if you're interested in applying for Horizon Europe, use your national contact points in both South Africa and in Norway. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you so much, and thanks for taking the time to join us this morning.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. I think the next item on our program for this morning was another comfort break just until 11:15, I believe. Sorry, 10 past. And then after that, we'll be hearing from the different groups and the team facilitators about the specific projects and the focus that the groups will be taking going forward. Yeah, so if anyone has not made final decisions with the groups, hopefully the sort of brief overview will just give you any remaining information that you might be needing before making final decisions on the different groups. So we'll be hearing from the facilitators or other members of the group who wish to give us just an overview of their focus after the comfort break. Does anyone want to add anything or raise any topics before we break, before the team overviews? All right. I see we have gone slightly over time. I was a little off there. I think our comfort break is until 11:10. So if anyone needs to run and grab a quick cup of coffee before the overviews, we'll see you in a little bit. Thanks. Thank you so much, Jan. It was really great to hear about Horizon Europe and all that they do. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to either raise your hand or type your questions in the chat box. Yeah, but I just want to say thanks so much, Jan, for outlining all the various clusters and giving us a good overview of the various activities and things that they're looking for. I saw that did note that there was a focus on oceans, and I'm sure plastics will overlap with quite a few of the other clusters that you spoke about. Yeah, and I think the partnerships that you mentioned between South Africa and Norway will hopefully be indicative of the constructive collaboration that the SANO program will also benefit from. Does anyone have any questions? Please feel free to type them through or raise your hand. Carl, I'm not sure if you want to add anything. But I'm sure there'll be a few people who will look into the funding opportunities that you've outlined as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. Thank you so much. And I'm also helpful. I'm not an expert in finding my way through the maze in Brussels, but I certainly know of Jan and our friends at the Norwegian Research Council. So I'm more than happy to sort of help point you in the right direction. And hopefully, as Tara just mentioned, there might be opportunities emerging from this program, but people getting to know, building new relationships between the two countries, hopefully as a basis to pursue some of these opportunities. Rounding off to 100 billion euros, that's like 200, how much is that? 2 billion, 100 billion, that's like, 2,000 billion rands, roughly, give or take, right? It's substantial. So thank you, Jan.
Okay, thank you. I wish you luck with the rest of the kickoff. And my final advice, if you're interested in applying for Horizon Europe, use your national contact points in both South Africa and in Norway. Okay, bye-bye.